All right, so we are live. We are live. Good evening, ladies, and good evening, everybody. So I'm checking to make sure I'm live. It's a little bit of a delay, but that's all right. That's all right. So y'all give us a minute or so because we need to make sure that whether or not you can see us. All right. Are y'all live? Can you see it on your platforms?
Mm. Does it come up right on the top page? Where does it come?
Oh, yes, I see it. Yes. So live on LinkedIn, Facebook Live. It was a little delayed. Let me make sure I share it appropriately. There we go. We are live.
Oh,
Change my privacy. All right.
I don't see it yet, so I don't know.
Okay. How are you? How are you doing with the live? Can you see it, Chai?
Yep, I'm all good.
Okay, very good. So let me see to son.
Page, maybe.
Yeah, I can't share it, but yeah. So good evening, everybody. We needed to make sure our tech was working before we got started.
Hmm.
And so here we are, another Flourish and Thrive moment as we are celebrating Women's History Month, and then we are celebrating something super special today, which hopefully you know about, but we'll talk about a little bit. But before we do all of that, who are we? It says our names, but we will introduce ourselves. So I will have my colleagues introduce themselves. So I ask Chai to introduce herself, and then to Tsani, and then I'll finally introduce myself.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. It's Chai, like the tea. Matthias. I am the co chair of the Atlanta Black Chamber's Health and Wellness Committee, also the founder of Inside Out Health and Beauty, where we are improving the quality of life from the inside out. I serve as a holistic wellness practitioner and a full spectrum holistic doula, loving my job every single day and excited to have this amazing conversation about rest today.
We go, and our special guest, ma'am.
Hi, I am Tsani Merriweather with the Healers Lounge. We create rest and healing spaces for conferences, event spaces, and meetings so that people can know and understand that rest and work can and should coexist. Doesn't have to be one or the other, it's a both and.
Yes, love it, love it, love it. You are the first person who I've heard with that business concept, and I just love it. My name is Dr. Fiona B. Lewis. I am the founder of Black and Perry, where I help midlife women with transition. So I empower them, especially empower us, I should say, because I empower myself first, especially during our midlife menopause transition when our bodies are changing, we're not sure what's happening, we need answers. We go to our medical providers, and sometimes they don't know what's happening. They can't give us the answers and they can't give us the appropriate advice. And so I do that through workshops, webinars, talks, and one of my favorite things to do is to pair that with my culinary nutrition and wellness background so that we do all of the integrative health and wellness things, but we are cooking, we're tasting, we're learning how to nourish our bodies as it relates to midlife and menopause transition. So, y'all know who we are. So, welcome, welcome. As you are coming in the virtual room with us, we want you to introduce yourselves. So, where are you from? Why are you interested in the topic? Why are you joining us tonight? So, we will check in periodically. We just know we don't forget you. We have some questions. We will check in periodically to see what y'all are saying in the chat. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, let me see if I see any body introducing themselves on my platforms. So, I just checked Facebook, LinkedIn. Okay, one comment. Okay, that was me earlier, putting the link for the event. So we will proceed on. So tonight we are excited, or this evening we're excited to talk about our Flourish and Thrive event that is happening this weekend. But before we get to all of that, we want to say happy Women's History Month. And also today is National Day of Rest for Black women, or otherwise known as Harriet Tubman Day. So before we get into all the other things, did y'all know about this day? Because I did not know until I was preparing for this. Where were we? I'm 47.
No clue. Had
I,
no clue.
I knew about it before today, but I can't say how long I've known about it. I've known
Hmm.
for a little while, but before today, for sure.
I did not. I guess we were the ones who needed to rest, but we needed to know about the day, and we were too busy working. But that's all right. We got it together. We got it together. So officially, our topic is honoring Miss Harriet and reclaiming our rest. So I did some research because I'm like, how did I not know about this? And so, why is it even a day? Do y'all know why it's a celebration? Why we pair it together with Miss Harriet's actually her death?
Today is the
Um,
date of her death.
yeah. So one of the things I learned that I wanted to share in terms of why we ask Black women to pick this day to reclaim rest is that, and this is so true, we've seen it played out now, right, over the past few months. Um, Historically, we are the ones who carry everything, right? We're grateful for our men, but historically we are the ones who carry everything at the expense of our well-being. Wow. Wow. What y'all got to say about that? I feel like we need to pause to just acknowledge that that is the case, and we see it still playing out. And if we're not personally intentional to remind our sisters to rest and to focus on our well-being, then that is not going to happen. It doesn't come naturally.
It doesn't. I think that's why we're
Yeah.
here, right? We're trying to
Yeah.
reclaim our time in terms of rest. And I think it's important as business owners in particular, right? Some of us are still in corporate spaces and building our own empires. And it's very easy to get caught up in the grind, hustle, network, build business, and we forget that
Right.
that's what we're set up to do. That does not make it right. That does not
Right.
make it okay. And we have to be very consistent and intentional about reminding ourselves to rest. And it's not a luxury. It is not owed to us. It is our responsibility to claim it for ourselves. And as service providers, we're here with the Health and Wellness Committee, right? We are in service to so many people all the time that we have to put ourselves on the top of the list. And rest is very, I know yesterday we talked about sleep, right? Rest is very
Mm-hmm.
different from sleep. It is not the same thing. And there's so many different examples that we can offer to ourselves in terms of rest. So
Mm.
that's mine.
Yeah.
I think too,
Go ahead.
it wasn't really modeled, right? If you think about the generations from Harriet Tubman until now, it wasn't something that we saw modeled. So it actually became a norm, a societal norm to always be doing a whole lot, taking care of the family, working. As time went on, women felt like they needed to earn a living for various reasons, right? And when you look at the traditional roles back in the day, the mom stayed home. She took care of the house. She took care of the kids. So she probably had more time to rest, right? But taking on these additional responsibilities as head of the household, as CEO, it takes on another weight, right? One of the things I've learned to do even though it wasn't modeled for me, is I've learned to work from a place of rest. When I think
Mm.
of rest, I think my profession allows me to do it because it's a lot of waiting, it's a lot of gentleness, it's a lot of holding space, right? Profession, I've learned to work from a place of rest. So everything that I do from a place of rest. Because again, rest and sleep are two different things. But it took time to get to that place to understand that if I didn't take care of me, again, like we talked about yesterday, I can't show up as the best version of myself for those. So I owe it to myself to figure out what that looks like for me. And then the other person, a lot of people feel like in order to get where they're trying to get to, they have to work hard like other people, or they're trying to strive. I think we talked about that yesterday, working from a
Right. Yeah.
striving and not working from a place of resting. It's this whole grace over grind concept, right? And when you really embrace that and it becomes a part of your identity and you start to just kind of lean into it more, you'll find that rest is really not that hard. And it's not something you have to reclaim. It's actually a posture that you wake up with and you go to sleep with all the time. And so I think we need to also kind of reframe what rest truly looks like, because I think the rest conversation comes from an internal posture more so than an external posture. So a couple of things I know I shared. It wasn't modeled. So we're doing what we saw done, right? Not really understanding that rest is not just sleep. Rest is actually a posture of your life, how to get to that place. And then, number three, that when you really finally reach this space, you don't want to leave it. Anytime something comes into your space that tries to pull you out of rest to create anxiety or to create pressure or to create tension, you're like, whoa, 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 right? And you naturally pull back. And that goes back to boundaries, right? Not being able to
Right.
set boundaries, not being able to communicate, this is what I need, right? In order for me to show up as that best version of myself, I need to live like this. So I think it's so many layers of it when we talk about rest. I don't think it's one dimensional.
Right, right. Y'all are giving us some super fantastic gems. And I just want to make sure that I'm not missing any of the comments in the chat, and anybody who's chiming in to this conversation. So, just to reset our conversation, we are members of the Atlanta Black Chamber. We belong to the Health and Wellness Committee. We are business owners. We are sisters working together to organize and to curate an event that we will be hosting this weekend. And we are having a conversation in honor of Harriet Tubman Day as it relates to reclaiming our rest, our well being as women. So, Chai is our co-chair for Health and Wellness Committee, and Tsani is one of our members, like myself, in the Health and Wellness Committee. And so we've had some super good gems. So I will ask Tsani, give us one, like a summary in terms of a gem from something you shared, and then Chai, if you could do the same.
Yeah, I think that what Chai said was really important, that it is internal. It's a conscious state that, one
Mhm.
of the biggest differences between rest and sleep. Rest is very conscious. To me, it is really intentional. And it is one of those things that you think about as a whole, a very holistic practice that you put into place. And I think that, yes, we all know all the things that we can do, what we should be doing for ourselves. And we just need reminders, very gentle, loving reminders. And for me, I just think about what things can I do as a practice, as a regular practice, my daily routine that I give to myself before I give myself to anyone else. And also that learning to say no more than anything, learning to say no really keeps me in a state of constant reminder of I can rest at any time. I can rest at any time. And when I say no to things that are taking me away from rest, I'm saying yes to myself. right? And it's not about sleep. It's just about things that I want to do that feed into me, just
Right.
into my soul. And so that I can give in a way that comes from fullness.
Right. Absolutely.
And when I think about that, just to piggyback on that, when you think about every day, that's not always possible every day. So we have to be realistic, right?
It's a
Um,
transformation day. Days.
it- yeah, because has its own level of stress and pressures and unexpected,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I think what we're trying to convey today is to know yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Know what you need, to know when your body is saying, I need to pull back, I need to disengage,
Right.
I need to unplug, I need to unwind, which is why we created this event in the first place. Because again,
Right.
we're so focused on serving others and showing up for others
Right.
all the time, being on. That's the word that I use,
Right.
always having to be on. I mean, me as a pastor, always having to be on, right? I had to put boundaries and parameters and things like that in place so that I could show up for my clients in the marketplace, as well as show up for those that I serve on the spiritual side, right?
Right.
And be effective in both spaces, right?
Right.
And so having those healthy boundaries in place, knowing that when I'm not doing okay, like you said, to say no, to pull back, to disengage, and to honor people enough to do that, right? And I think
Right.
people don't realize that you being rested and being balanced and being healthy is what you want to give people. And the reason we're having this conversation is because there's a lot of people walking around here that are just not pleasant to deal with on a day-to-day basis. They are not.
Because they're not rested, because they haven't rested.
And
And
they don't
again,
know themselves. They don't even know why they're like they are, right?
exactly.
They're sleep deprived.
Exactly.
They're not rested. They're stressed. They won't say no, right? They won't, they won't put boundaries in place. And people know it in theory, like they know it
Right.
in their brain, but to
Right.
execute is a whole nother thing. Again, to the point, this is why we created this event, because these are
Right.
conversations that we want to have, right? These are experiences that we want to create for women to say it's okay to take time out for yourself just
Right.
for one day, right?
Right, right, right. Fantastic. So I'm looking at a comment. We have Hannah Benson from Martinsville, West Virginia. She's a doula and a spiritual midwife. And she says spiritual doulas and spiritual midwives need to learn how to do better self-care. So yes, any given profession, right? Any profession where you are giving, self care needs to be on the list.
Mhm.
So I'm so glad you all were talking about the difference between sleep and rest, because this is one of my favorite TED Talks. And I just wanted to share this high level, the difference between sleep and rest, but really zoning in on rest. So, this particular physician, her talk focused on 7 types of rest,
Mhm.
right? So it doesn't have to always be that we're sleeping, right? Sleep is physical rest. We can definitely do that, but physical rest also can include like a massage, right? It just means that we come away from the physical stimulation. But then, if we know ourselves, to your point, then we can know when we're overstimulated mentally. Um, the noise, the lights, right? We can know those things. We can know when we're overstimulated or triggered, as we use that word, emotionally. We can know when we I remember I had a job where I did a lot of public facing things. And so after interacting with like hundreds of students in like a 2 hour, 3 hour span, I was like drained. And so, that social interaction, it's all good, but then there are times when we need to step back and replenish our energy. And then there's the spiritual rest. So for me, I do Sabbath on Saturday. So that's a spiritual rest for me. So I just want people to also realize, doesn't mean that, you could be super stressed, but number one, as Chai pointed out, rest is a posture, an internal posture. If you think of it spiritually, then it could be like a place of surrender, depending on how you want to put that. But then also think about other ways that you can rest besides sleeping, because it's true, we can go to sleep and still wake up tired and still be all the things except the best thing that we are to ourselves and others, right? So consider, go through your inventory, use these seven areas. Am I overstimulated physically? Is it physical exhaustion? Is it like mentally? I'm at it. I'm hustling and grinding mentally, so I can't turn it off. So I'm going to need to unplug and do some things to turn it off. Is it that I'm in front of my computer screen? I work remotely or whatever the case might be. And do I need to shut the lights, dark room, sit for a minute or two? Is it, do I need to like engage in something fun and creative? And so on. So consider these forms of rest by way of nuggets as we are talking about rest. So let's see, we have Roberta Howard. She says, absolutely. Thank you for joining us, sis. Where are you joining us from? Let us know in the chat. So anything to add to that before we move on to our next point of discussion? All right. So the next question is, what does rest look like for you? In the chat, let us know. Let us know in the chat, what does rest look like for you? Ladies, what you got? What does rest look like for you?
What does this look like for me? So I mentioned earlier, I don't even know if we were live yet. I said today I worked out first thing this morning. And although that was a physical activity, rest can generally be a reduced physical activity, but that was rest for me. That was connecting my body and my mind and focusing on something that is important to me, and that's moving my body. And later today, I am going to practice my guitar and not look at it as, I'm learning how to play. It won't be work, and that is rest. And so typically, rest is every evening for me. And so I do believe that you can incorporate rest into every single day because they are small things. It doesn't have to be a grand, I'm going to retreat. Yes, we want you to come to our wellness experience.
Right.
You can learn just small little ways each day to make that happen for you. I like candles and incense every evening as part of my meditation. I might listen to some music in the morning. I have a dedicated morning playlist. I have something in the evening. So those are little things that just are added to my life that are restful, that are just for me. I'm not helping anyone else, no service involved, just to myself. So those are just some of my rest examples. I have a whole list of things I find throughout the day. And I set timers. I set timers on my phone so that I can get up and make sure I'm doing something. It might be going to fix a bowl of soup or get something to eat or something to drink and just take a moment. I walk around my house in circles, whatever it may be, just to kind of take a break and reset.
Wow, I love that. So I am actually playing with my rest routine right now. I
Mm-hmm.
work from home, and
Yeah.
so initially it was just like, whoo, you work outside and you come, and so you're trying to work in a routine. It's been about uh, a year and a half. I've done some things, but today I want to say it was like really good. Like this routine, I think I will keep it because I ended up resting so well last night that
Mm,
I well, and I was telling you all, I woke up around 3. I got to the gym at 3:54. This is like never happened ever in my life. You will not catch me up that early, except to catch a flight. So 3:54, I'm in the gym. It was so peaceful, like you, Tazan. It was like reconnecting with my body.
yeah.
It's just like, whew. And then the thing that happened that just icing on the cake, I came home and I had some incense and I actually lit the incense and had my quiet time with God. And it was like, wow, just the sensory, the extra sensory experience with the incense while I'm reading my devotion, bliss,
Every day.
bliss,
So every
right?
yeah.
Bliss.
Good for you.
So I'm still playing, but that's those are a few of the things that I will keep in my routine in terms of rest for sure. And then of course there's the Sabbath and a few other things, turn off the phone kind of thing. But yeah, that those are the high points for me.
It's so simple.
Yes, it
So
is. And
yeah.
that's the thing. Like engaging our senses, and
Mhm.
which is really good for what we're talking about in terms of our event, just engaging different parts of our senses, different color lights, in terms of seasonal depression, having the appropriate lights to help with that, and then having the nice soothing music in the background. And then another sensory stimulation would be the nice candles. So that's all rest. That's all rest. Like in the middle of the day while I get up and I'm
Mhm.
resting because I'm preparing my lunch. That's a form of rest, right?
Mhm.
I'm not in front of the computer, so I'm away from the screen. So I think as you all are saying, it's just a mindset and a way of looking at things, um beyond sleep.
And to
Beyond
me,
sleep.
rest is
Mhm.
just do nothing. Yeah.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for me, it's stillness. Just being still, right? If you're up and you're moving constantly, to me, rest is just being still. And
Mhm.
so I have a place that is in my home that I go and sit with the Lord. And I mean, it has the lighting, the pillows, the atmosphere, the music, and I just sit there. And then I incorporate the breathing techniques, the take five
Hmm.
breathing techniques that I've mentioned every time. And I usually start off with that, just the deep breathing and the stillness, right? When I'm on the go, I've also found ways to rest when I'm in movement or when I'm in service, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes that just looks like, again, the deep breathing, the laughter. Laughter brings me so much rest and joy, right? That's another sensory thing, being able to laugh or being able to look at something that's funny or read something that's funny. Journaling brings me great rest. Reading brings me great rest. Sometimes just laying down, turning off the lights, not going to sleep, but just laying there brings me great rest.
Right.
And another thing that brings me great rest is travel. I absolutely love to travel. It is something about being in the air that brings me tremendous rest. I don't know what it is, but I also like to travel. And for most people, traveling can be very stressful, right?
Yeah.
But the change of scenery also brings me great rest. I mean, even if I don't leave the city, just going and getting an Airbnb that's really nicely decorated, right?
Yeah.
And just
Yes.
taking this
Yes.
as
Yep.
my personal 72-hour hold. I put myself on a 72-hour hold in the Airbnb. I just need a minute.
Change of scenery. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think those are really practical things that you can do, again, just to recenter and to reset. And if you incorporate all of these, one of these things that we're saying, two of these things that we're saying, you'll find that it's
Right.
so much easier. But again, I have to go back to the breathing. Breathing is the fastest way to reset.
It
Take
is.
Hmm.
5, go in the bathroom stall, set your timer on your watch, and just breathe. just take
Hmm.
take a minute.
Hmm.
And I think those are ways that you can actually rest and reset when you can't necessarily stop or lay down or do some of the things
Right.
that you mentioned today.
Right. 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 So we have been having a really great conversation.
It was so
Um,
lovely.
Yeah, this is juicy, isn't it? Juicy, juicy, juicy. So we want to hear whether you're on the live right now or you are going to watch us on the replay. We want to hear some of your takeaways and some of the actionable things that you will do based on what we are sharing. So we know, y'all smart, y'all know all the things. So this is your reminder. So now that you've been reminded, what are you going to do with the information? So, we want to make sure that we highlight Tsani because Tsani has a great business. We want to hear from you now about your business, how you got started, a little bit more of what you've done and what you do with your clients, and then a little bit about your involvement with Flourish and Thrive. So, Madam, the floor is yours.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Let's see. Well, how I got started. So, my background, corporate America and I divorced in July of 2024. So, I am full time. I'm a full time entrepreneur now. I have been an entrepreneur off and on for years, coupled with working in corporate. And interestingly enough, I was forced to rest. I was forced to rest physically and mentally. I was just overwhelmed and decided really that I had had enough and I needed to find a different way to feed my soul and find make a career change. And so doing something that I had loved to do already, I have turned into a full-time gig. And so with the Healers Lounge, we create rest and healing spaces primarily for conferences. And it started for me. I've been working in these spaces for 5 years or so. Probably I started in 2019. And I was just working with one conference, one very sex positive conference in Atlanta, is where I got my start. And I really got an opportunity to see how people were really impacted and craved having a space that they could go to in the midst of the busyness of the conference days, which is, being a multi-day conference. And so it hit me in 2023 that I needed to create it for other conferences, and people really just deserve to have a space that they didn't even know that they needed. People are not going to stop going to conferences. I'm a consumer. I also go to conferences, more so now for personal development, but it could be personal and professional development. And every single time I go to a conference that does not offer a space that I offer, I'm exhausted and I'm looking for a space. They typically take place in hotels. If you do not stay in the host hotel, what do? You have to pack up all your things for the day. You have to have your snacks and your water and, a blanket because it's always freezing for me. And so I just know that there's a better way. So I created it. And I love doing interior decorating. So it's really a mashup of my passions. I'm a body worker, I'm an intimacy coach, I'm a professional cuddler. So I'm surrounded by healers all the time. And so I really bring everything that is needed to create a space for people to just kind of reset in the midst of what they're doing. And so that they don't feel like you have to choose, but you also get an opportunity to take care of yourself. And then I love working with organizations that realize that well-being needs to be a priority for the people that are coming into these spaces. And so with our event coming up, our Flourish and Thrive event, I get an opportunity to showcase what a Healers Lounge could really look like when people come and work with me. And so I think that I'll be really instrumental in that space. And I think I answered all your questions. I
You
don't
sure did. You sure did.
know.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Thank
Again, I'm so inspired by the uniqueness and the purposefulness behind your business, right? It's so needed because I can tell you I've been to many conferences and just headaches and all of the you learn something but you don't know what it is because you're too tired to remember.
Yes.
So I'm just, wishing you many blessings and lots of expansion and all the things for your business because while we're trying to learn and slay and talk and take the stage and all the things, we do need to rest in between all of that. So Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for the work that you do.
Make it possible for people to also take ownership of making self-care a priority for themselves. And so when you see it and you have those examples, maybe it'll trigger something to let you know that, oh my gosh, I can do this as well. I don't have to choose. I can continue to be great and do all these things out in the world and also take care of myself, and then take some of those practices home, so that it is not one of those things where you feel like you have to go on vacation or you have to go to a retreat, once every however often you're making that happen for yourself, that it can become more of a routine for your life because it's needed. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Y'all, so we're gonna talk a little bit about this event. So I will turn it over to our fearless, beautiful queen, doula, all the things, pastor, leader, hi, visionary, to talk about the event that we're hosting together.
Yeah, I think our conversation today talked about the event. It talked about
Yeah.
it talked about why it's needed. It talked about the space that's being created, which Tsani is the spearhead of creating this space. We've already talked about all the amazing practitioners, the wellpreneurs that we're going to have in the building to provide love, support, encouragement, physical touch, sensory things, activities that we're going to have, connection, community, all of it. This is what we've curated. And I'm so excited to not just talk about it, to actually be doing something about it. Because I think we talk a lot and we listen to a lot of information. And I think just having those moments where you can just come and process is amazing. I don't know about you all. You know how you go to a conference like Tsani was just talking about, and you get all this information, and you're sitting there, you're taking in the information, and you're writing in your journal, and your journal is full of notes. But when do you just stop and just go back through the journal and read the journal and come up with a strategy? I've got color codes in my journal because this is red is going to be what I'm processing on this day. And when I sit down today, I'm going to use green because I know I've gone back through here. But in order for me to do it, I had to be still
Yeah.
long enough to even process what I wrote, to even process the information that I took in. You have to be still. And I think that's what happens. People go from conference to event, and they're just taking in, they're just consuming, but really never executing. And the reason why we're not seeing as many people execute on the levels that we want to see people execute is because they're not being still long enough to just say, I have this vision. Now, how can I work smart, not hard? Because there's a community around me where if I just communicate my vision, guess what? They'll all say, that's dope. I'm gonna help you. Let's do it. That's exactly what I did with this amazing group of ladies. I got an idea what y'all want to do, right? And so having this space that we've created, not only for you to unplug, unwind, receive some amazing services, right? But also to connect and build community so that we can build together and work smarter and not harder. And so that's the space that we're in. We don't have to work hard anymore. Everything you need, I've heard people say this all the time, everything you need is in the house. But if you don't stop long enough to be able to identify what's in the house, what strengths are in the house, then you won't know how to execute. You won't know how to pull those pieces together. And so that's really what we're trying to do, is to figure out a way to really make a lasting impact in our community. And in order to do that, we've got to first be still.
Woo. All right. Listen. So, we could drop the mic there, but just for professional purposes, we're gonna wrap it up nice and clean, like a nice little bow. Any last parting words before I share mine and we let the folk go?
I would
Tasani?
just I would just say, use this platform that we're on, this live, as some journal prompts for you, and take these nuggets and take them to heart, and just get started. Start where you are and do one small thing for yourself. I think that we don't have to make it so difficult and so grandiose. I think people get caught up in they don't know what to do, and so you're stagnant and you're just stuck. Just take one small thing, like Chai said. Breath work is a huge place to start because we all breathe. We breathe every day, right? And the more you practice that, your intentional breathing, I think that's a good place to start. And come join us. Come join us at the event and let us serve you, and show you more examples of what it's like to just take care of yourselves, and so we can all commit to being more rested in community.
Love it. Love it. Chai?
I think I've said enough.
You sure did, honey.
I
I don't know
got
that you
I
said
got
enough, but you
nothing. I got
sure
nothing. I
did.
got
Got
nothing.
a lot.
I got nothing.
You absolutely did. We had a really great conversation, and one of the things I want to leave us with a few things. Number one, the reason, there's a purpose for everything. So the reason why you popped on for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, however long you're listening to us, watching us, is because there is something in it for you. So please do not miss this opportunity to do one little thing, as Tsani just said. Just one thing. Pick one thing. This is your opportunity to rest in whatever way that you need to. Please take the time to do something actionable. Because, yes, we listen to a lot of podcasts and different things, and we just listen, right? So please take some action. That's thing number one. And the last thing I will leave us with is what I heard is that transformation is in stillness and rest, right? There's a certain level of transformation that comes when we are still and when we are rested. So that would be my challenge for all of us. Those of you who are on the live, those of us here, there are things that there's certain levels of transformation that we need to get to because we're always transforming. So let's look for it in the stillness and the rest. So y'all, thank you so much for joining us in the virtual streets of the internet of Facebook and LinkedIn. We appreciate you engaging with us. Thank you so very much. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday, 10 a.m., 4 p.m. at Studio House Atlanta.
Yeah.
We want to see your smiling faces. We want to see you dressed comfortably,
Yes.
right? So this is a dress comfortable. This is not a soiree with the heels and all the cute things.
Yeah.
You will still be beautiful in this sense. When you dress comfortably, everything gets to shine from the inside out. Like you just get to be yourself and radiate that type of energy and positivity. So we look forward to seeing you. Thank you for joining us. We will put information in the chat if we have not already done so about purchasing tickets. And then Tasani will also go back in the chat and put her information so you know how to connect with her and partner with her in her business. So, ladies, thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
Y'all have a wonderful night. Everybody get some good rest
Oh,
and
yes.
sleep, right? Let's be intentional about it. Y'all take good care.
Have a good night, everybody.
Hey, thank you.